What's up, guys? Got a very exciting client success interview for you today. I'm joined with my identical twin brother, Ethan, and one of our best clients of all time, Miss Jessica Lawson. She is a bariatric coach, so she helps people overcome decades of food addiction, really, that have manifested in a very extreme decision to have a bariatric surgery. For those of you who know what that is, you know what that entails. And if you don't, it involves the amputation of parts of your stomach. And so she's has a very high stakes coaching program where the people coming to her are in a pretty extreme level of pain, and it's been happening for a very long time. And she guides them through a real transformation on the other side that permanently changes their life. And so this is a very high impact program, and there's a lot at stake, right? So she has to navigate a lot of different factors on the marketing, sales, and client success side in a delicate but also powerful way. And so, we're going to dive really deep into what her experience has been like working with us, but more importantly, what she does inside of her business and what she does for her clients as well. Yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. So, Jessica, you just had a little bit of an intro on who you are, but could you give everyone just a brief update on, how you found us, what your business was like when you first joined, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, first off, one of your top clients ever. Oh my gosh, what an honor.
Yep.
Uh, I had no idea. So when I first found you all, I was fledgling. I don't even know if that's a real word.
It is.
Everything felt very unstable. I was maybe 10 months, 11 months into my coaching journey and was still really nailing everything down and very unsure of myself as a coach. I knew the niche I wanted to work in. I knew the problem that needed to be solved, more or less. But there were a lot of gray areas for me in particular because I hadn't ever been in a coaching program like this myself, and I had nothing really to compare it to. Like, I worked in corporate America, went to, a fancy undergrad, went to a fancy business school. No one ever taught me, and like I worked in management consulting, but like client success and management consulting, very different, very different than client success in a coaching business. And so, you know, I had really nothing to compare this to. And so I was doing what I thought was best, but I've always been someone that wants to learn from the best. Like, I will pay to, collapse time. And so I remember I joined a different coaching program and had been chatting with them and was just talking about how important client success was to me. And they were like, well, this is something we can help you with, but if you really want to, accelerate and move faster, here is Alex. And so then I got introduced to you. And I knew before our sale, I don't know if I ever told you this. I knew before our sales call, like I was 99% sure, like whatever you were gonna charge me, I was gonna do. And I remember telling you on our call, like, you should be charging more. But yeah, I 100% knew just because I watched a video, like Eduardo had sent this video that was on YouTube where it was like you, Jeremy, Eduardo, and him talking, and I could just like hear. I really liked how strategic you thought about things, but also the way that you thought about implementation as well. And I think a lot of people talk about strategy, but don't really know how to get into the implementation, like nitty gritty side of things. And I really valued that you knew both. Um, and you seemed like a cool person too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I want to touch on, actually, before we even get into, because we're going to, talk about strategy and implementation, of course. But one thing I really want to get into as a foundational piece that I think is a uh, exactly that for your success is the fact that you've gone through the transformation yourself that you guide your clients through, right? And that's a pattern that we see um, in a lot of coaching programs where people are trying to teach things that they haven't necessarily done before. And if they have, they don't, a lot of times they don't have a lot of experience, right? And so the thing when you go to enhance the client success side of your department is that, or rather of your company, is that um, there has to be something there already to magnify. Like you can't really, at least from my perspective, like I can't make someone learn a new skill for the thing that they're teaching that they haven't developed yet. I can help grow it, but there needs to be something to work with, right? And so, could you tell just a little bit about your own journey as it relates to like your own bariatric transformation and then where you're at now in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up always having a disordered relationship with food. My dad binge ate. He had issues with obesity throughout his life, and he passed away of a heart attack, which I'll come back to in a second. But um, grew up dancing, being in that kind of environment, competitive dancing, was also a cheerleader, captain of the cheerleading team. You're always told to be smaller and as small as possible. I'm also 5'1.5", so I'm short too. So you want to be skinny and short. Or if you're short, you want to be skinny, right? You don't want to be short and large, or that's what society tells us. And so, you know, growing up was tough and never really knew anything about the fact that you could heal your relationship with food. Then went away to college and started gaining weight because it was, freshman 15, kind of how everyone talks about it. And then just kind of like cycled and progressed and spent like the next, 10 years really yo-yoing with my own weight and increasing, like becoming a food addict to an extent. And then it wasn't until after business school and I moved to LA that I gained like 70 pounds in 1 year because of the amount of stress I was in when I was working at a startup. And then started my own tech company that I was just like, holy shit, like I now cannot get up the stairs to my apartment. And I remember like I was 290 pounds, 5'1.5", and just feeling like so depressed and so sad. And, I never really thought about the health implications, which is something I think about now and I talk to my clients a lot about. But at the time, it was purely a mental health, like purely I want to get out of this body sort of thing for me. And so then I went and did the most extreme thing I could think of, which was to physically amputate my stomach, because I thought that would solve all my problems. Because surely there was nothing wrong with my brain. And so went and got the surgery, went through insurance. My insurance completely covered it, pretty much paid like $400 total out of pocket, which normally the surgery can cost thousands, like $5,000, $10,000, depending on where you go. Lost a lot of weight really quickly and started building a following on social media through content by documenting my own weight loss. The reason why I started creating my own content about it was because I was worried that I wasn't going to be successful. So I started making content so that even if one person saw it, they would then know if I stopped. So me, showcasing my weight loss on TikTok was my way of having accountability. And now it's wild that it's now turned into this. But then my father passed away and realized relationship with food wasn't fixed. And then that kind of catapulted into me regaining 15 pounds in 30 days and was like, uh-oh, we're not going down this road again. Really did a ton of research, went and got certified, became a certified nutrition coach, and did a lot of digging into like bariatric nutrition science and science of habit building and all of this to really figure out like how do you heal your relationship with food when you've had issues with it for your entire life. And I'd gone to a food therapist when I was in business school. Clearly wasn't that helpful. I'd had therapists. I'd um, tried lots of different things. Nothing really seemed to work. But I've always been really good at building processes and systems thanks to management consulting and my business oriented brain, and kind of thought to myself, okay, there's a framework I can make that will help me achieve this. And then I made it and it worked, and I lost 15 pounds in 30 days. Um, and then started working with other people to do that.
Yeah, that's huge. And thank you for going into such detail. I actually didn't know a number of those pieces there. So um, we'll fast forward a little bit, right? So you're still in the management consulting world at this point. When did you decide to take the deep dive to stop doing that and commit 100% to your coaching business?
So it was probably, so I stopped management consulting when I went to business school. So after business school, went worked at a startup, then started my own company after working at that company, and wound that company down. Then took like a 6 month sabbatical where I went to like Disneyland every day. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Because I was in LA. And then I was trying to do like digital products because I had this following now. So I was trying to like figure out how can I monetize as an influencer. Um, and do brand deals, etc. And then people started coming to me for coaching. And so I started doing some minimal coaching here and there, but like nothing like what I do now. But honestly, it really wasn't until my my father passed away and I moved back to Tampa that I went all in, because then I had no expenses. Um, and honestly, I think it's one of the best gifts that he ever gave me, which sounds awful. Um, but he was an entrepreneur. Like, he built businesses, and like I'm sitting at his desk right now, like this is his office. Um, and I think he'd be really proud of what I've done, especially because like he was a food addict. Um, and now I'm helping people do that. But so it wasn't really until I had some like less like financial, or I had like a financial safety net thanks to like living with my mom, because my dad died, went to, moved to Tampa to help her, that I really went all in.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about the kind of like a quick snapshot of what your business was like when we first met each other, right? And so you had about 14 clients at the time. You were just doing one-on-one coaching, which was supported by Trainer Eyes. That's where your videos were, and you held your clients accountable. Which is a very common, app that people use in health coaching and fitness coaching contexts. You were making, I think the revenue was around 18K, if I'm not mistaken, and that was 100% through organic content, mostly on TikTok, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then, yeah, basically you wanted to scale things to 30K per month, right? When you came to me, the main thing that I remember you most adamantly communicating is that, you came from the, high stress tech startup management consulting, just standard business world, which is very high stress, and you did not want to repeat that same pattern inside of your own coaching business. If you were going to do this, you were going to do it your way. And what that looked like specifically was essentially you having as much freedom as possible, which allowed you to focus on the tasks that you actually like doing, which is coaching people and making content, really. And so that really ultimately was the goal. Like, whatever the outcome looked like as far as revenue goes, obviously we want to maximize profit, but revenue, tech stacks, fulfillment models, all that was a means to an end to achieve a world where you're able to not just enjoy what you do, but something that like you actually feel like you're thriving in your life, and you actually have full autonomy and agency to make the decisions that you want to make. And I think we're pretty close to have, if not, I've already achieved that at this point. And it really only took 6 months, which I think is really incredible in the grand scheme of things because you didn't start from zero, which is very important. You had a really solid foundation, as we discussed, not just in business skills, but also in your own experience with this stuff, and just your intelligence and the character traits that you have as well. Um, but yeah, let's talk about where things are at now for you and your business.
Yeah. So now I am pretty like consistently hitting 30K. Um, this month we're definitely on track to do that. Last month was a little bit lower, but that's because had some like shifts in the people that were helping me. Uh, but the month before that was around there. I think honestly, I feel so much more confident in the like I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you guys, but I feel so good about client success. Like I every client coaching call I have, I feel so happy at the end of because my clients are crushing it. Like we're undoing 30, 40, 50 years of food addiction and truly rewiring people's brains in like 3, 4 weeks. Like obviously, it's not completely, but like you can see a huge shift starting to happen. And I think we were talking last Friday, and I was like, like sometimes I'm like, how does that, right? But and it's everything, and it's the community, it's the modules, it's the coaching calls, it's the group calls. Like the group calls, people love the group calls now, and I didn't have any group calls before, and now I think the group component is probably one of the most valuable pieces of the program. Um, because I work specifically with people that had the surgery and then regain weight, which 76% of people that have the surgery regain weight because just like what happened to me, it doesn't fix your brain. You really need brain surgery. But they feel so alone and they feel like they failed and something's wrong with them and that they're the only one going through this. And there's such a sense of peace that every client feels after the first group coaching call. And because they always message me like clockwork every single time. Uh, or it comes up in our first one-on-one call where they say, I can't believe it's not just me. And that alone just helps them, like that alone motivates them. And they can also see the people that are further in the program, right? Like they can see someone that is 10 weeks into the program and like how much progress they've made, not from necessarily just a weight perspective, but from the mindset shifts too. Like that's something that people have been commenting about, and it gives them hope because almost everyone enters the program with a teeny bit of doubt that it's going to work because they've tried everything. They've tried everything. They physically amputated their body, right? And they thought that was going to work and it didn't. So everyone has a teeny bit of doubt, no matter how many client success stories they watch on whether or not this is going to work. But I think the community gives them confidence. The community gives them confidence, and that then reinforces their commitment and motivation too.
Right. It's like an expression of like a live case study, essentially, every single week, and it's constantly getting reinforced. Um, there's a lot of stuff that we can unpack there. I want to start with who is your highest value client, would you say, Jessica?
Yeah, it's definitely not who I thought. Right, I think before I started working with you, I wasn't even sure who it really was, but uh, I'd say it is someone who is between 45 to 60. Kids are grown up, left the house, and they had surgery probably 2 to 4 years ago, regained at least 15 to 30 pounds, and now they're terrified because, you know, age is creeping up, and now they're scared of dying. And that's been a really big shift in how I think about all of this. Is I love working with this demographic because it is so empowering for me, because I feel like I'm truly saving people's lives. And I've had clients tell me that. Like, I've had a client, tell me, if it wasn't, I had a client tell me, thank you so much for getting the surgery, because if you hadn't taken control of your life, I never would have been able to. And that rocked me. I like cried for like an hour after that. And I don't really cry a lot, but that was wild to hear. And so it's also made me really rethink a lot about how I think about my own health, and but also understanding the motivations and the reason why for someone that's 55 is very different than someone who's 25 or 30. And they're both equally valid. But what I've seen is that the people that are 55, they got a little bit more sense of urgency too. They have more sense of urgency. They, like, it's do or die, right? Like, if they don't take care of this, it's going to take at least 10 years off their life. So they're motivated. Whereas someone that's younger, less perceived imminent threat of death, whether or not that is true per se.
Right. And so we talked about how, we have a specific age range here that we actually know is how old they actually are. It's not some theoretical thing. The mindset that they have, a level of urgency, whole host of things, that they've, had their surgery 2 or 3 years ago. They specifically regained their weight back. That's a really, really key thing that we've identified. What did you do to be able to determine that level of specificity for your highest value clients?
Well, you gave me a framework to think about it, but I basically looked at all the clients that I'd worked with and nailed down a couple of factors in regards of who got the best results, uh, who got the best results the fastest, like who did I enjoy working with the most, who also like paid in full. Um, there were other factors, I just can't remember them off the top of my head. But a lot of it too, because I remember as well looking at like where did they come from, and it was all Instagram as well. So at the time, I was still doing stuff on TikTok, which is where I mainly built my platform. There's a lot of problems with TikTok in general, like from an automations perspective. But I was realizing, there's all like my real demographics on Instagram. And so that also kind of pushed me to pivot more towards Instagram, but then also to eventually to YouTube.
Right. So let's talk about that, right? Because that actually was going to be my next question. Is like, well, how do you know who your highest value clients are, and then where did you find them, right? And so we again, originally you were acquiring your clients through TikTok. Came with a whole host of issues. They weren't the highest value in regards to the amount of money that they paid, and also the amount of value that you were even able to deliver them, because they weren't in a state where they were ready to receive that transformation, which caused you to spend a lot of resources. They're very expensive to fulfill, meaning lots of calls, lots of messages, lots of repeating yourself. Then, it's actually kind of interesting too, because if you did have a community at the time, Could you imagine what a community of those clients would be? Or, if you had most of your high value clients in one place and then one, two, three of these people come into a room of 30 of your highest value clients, what would happen to the dynamic there, right? And so it's a very, very key thing to understand who actually, and just to be, clear on who the highest value client matrix is, the people who pay the most amount of money, the most amount of times in full, on time, who get the shortest amount of results, or rather the most amount of results in the shortest amount of time, taking up the least amount of company resources, who have also delivered a case study, a testimonial, and a referral. Those are 10 boxes. They check all 10. They're the highest value client. And then anyone who checks at least 7 of those is a high value client. And you want to have your company orientated towards those people. So, the next takeaway of like, what do you do with that information? We just alluded to that. You figure out where they came from. And then the next piece there is to figure out what were the specific pieces of content that they resonated with, which we'll get into now. So, what is your let's before we get into that from a high level, because Ethan's on this call for a reason, right? This is really where he, grabbed the torch and took the client experience to the finish line here. What is your overall acquisition system? Let's talk about that first. Then we'll get into how Instagram plays into that, how YouTube plays into it, and then what your sales calls look like after that.
Yeah, so acquire folks through Instagram. And
You
then
generate the leads on Instagram specifically.
generate
Yeah.
the leads on Instagram. I do have an email list, but I have not been the most consistent about using that. And then a lot of those folks are from TikTok, so more TBD on the quality. But I pretty much treat Instagram like a website, pretty much. And then I nurture them through conversations and content, but I'm kind of just trying to push them to YouTube.
Right. So the purpose of Instagram is to get people to YouTube.
Yeah,
And why is that?
because it takes 7 hours for someone to want to buy from you. And I also don't really like filming short reels anymore. I much prefer the longer format videos. Like, I used to be a queen of short form content. Like,
I mean, you got a
then
TikTok page of like over 100K followers, right? Isn't it? Or
I have,
even
I have two. I started off when I was in business school. I have one that I grew to like 300K, and then I started in my fitness, my weight loss one, because I didn't want because I had a lot of people in like my corporate life that followed me on that one. I didn't want them to see my weight loss stuff because I didn't think it was going to blow up. Here we are. Uh, it's not my job, but started that one, and that one's now at like 100, over 100K. Yeah, I think.
nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, we talk about the 7 hour rule, which is people, it's a general rule in marketing that a lead who's ice cold, doesn't know who you are, generally takes around 7 hours of getting exposed to you, either through content or word of mouth or what have you, before they're mentally ready to purchase whatever it is that you're selling them. Now, that's just a general rule of thumb. It's not like a hard and fast thing that it takes 7 hours in 100% of cases. Sometimes it just takes one case study, one video, like one really good VSO, and one conversation, and that happens more often than I think people realize. If you, because Ethan, really did a lot in coining this term. If you just need to say the right words to the right people in the right order, and it manifests into money, basically. And if you're able to crack, this whole idea of like dialing in messaging, right? It's this idea of getting those specific words in the right sequence. And if you can do that in the most efficient way possible, it actually doesn't even take 7 hours. You can just run an ad saying one thing and someone will book a call, right? And that's also why, just to tie the piece to the highest value client matrix, is that how do you know what those words should be? And you find out what they are from your highest value clients. It really takes all the guesswork out of things. So to circle back, sorry, go ahead.
So that's something that's really interesting as well, is when I was doing that exercise, and something that I've really learned a lot is Um, the alternative to me, like if you think about like substitutes, right? Like it's like, do I work with Jessica or do I go to my doctor or do I take a GLP-1 like Ozempic or something, right? Um, I'm working with people that are significantly older than me. I'm 32. A lot of people think I'm like 25. I try to come across as older, but no, a lot of people think I'm young. And so YouTube and longer form content shows people, oh, she's not just this young woman who is making content on the internet and had surgery. She knows her stuff and she's credible because the the my target client, they're someone that values credentials, values seasoned expertise, like they're going to go to their doctor first. But the doctors don't care about people regaining weight because can't really do anything for them. They just care on getting people in and out of surgery. That's it. So it's a really interesting problem because the bariatric space isn't set up for this type of client, but it's the majority of the market. Like 76% of people that have surgery regain weight. So there's this massive hole and this huge opportunity for people like me, but people like me are very, like, someone existing like me is very new.
Right. So, Ethan, you built Jessica a customized, done for you AI agent, the YouTube Copilot. So, why don't you give us a description of what the YouTube Copilot is? Um, and Jessica, you can speak about how you've been using that in your acquisition process, and we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, happily. So back in November, Jessica and I started work together with YouTube, and at that point, she actually already had a YouTube channel, and I believe he already had 1,000 subscribers, right? It was something that your audience from TikTok and Instagram kind of bled over, but they weren't really actually engaged per se. But there was something there, right? And you were already making videos for probably a year or so, I think, right?
Shorts, yeah. I was just taking what I posted on TikTok and putting it on YouTube because why not?
Yeah, and
It wasn't consistent or yeah.
there were numbers there though, right? It wasn't just an empty page. Like there was something there, and so, however, there wasn't really any conversions happening. Nothing was being tracked as far as I'm aware, and it just existed, right? And so back in November we got together and I showed you how to use Claude to basically optimize and more or less automate your content creation process. And I'm curious to hear what you think about it because, as we talked about, you were the queen of short form content. You built, two or three TikTok accounts that hit over six figures. Your Instagram account today is at about 30-ish thousand followers, I think, which is quite large. And so you're very experienced in making content, but the content you were making for YouTube was a little bit different. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing on YouTube. No idea. The very first video I made like actually really like the only long form video I made is no longer on the channel. I don't even think you guys know about this, but I made it like 3 years ago. It had like 27,000 views and it was like whether or not like the business school I went to was worth it. Was worth the $250,000 I paid for it. And it took me 19 hours to film and edit that video. And
Was it worth it, by the way?
well,
Yeah.
I
It's what,
also got like 50% scholarship, so that was nice. But not for what I do now. No, I should have. Yeah, I didn't need to go to business school. But if I hadn't gone to business school, then I maybe a whole train of it. Anyway, um, but so like that was my only real exposure to YouTube. So at first I was like, ugh, this man with long blonde hair wants me to make YouTube videos. Like, this is gonna take so much time. I am also someone that craves efficiency. Like, I will find every way to be efficient if I can, because it's really just me in my business, and I don't have the luxury of time. And so when you showed me Claude and then you showed me what I could do, I was like, okay, this is better. But then when you showed me the Copilot and just everything it could do, then that got me very excited. And then when I get excited, I get very motivated and I'm like, I want to then use it. And then I was still like, okay, I'm gonna have to edit it. But then I found a way to like use Descript to edit, and it takes me like 15 minutes to edit a 15-minute video. And I'm like, because then my other question was like, how good does the editing have to be? And you were like, just film. Just film, edit like out the dead space and just post. Like, goal is to just post and to get into a cadence. Like, it doesn't really matter what it looks like, just the audio is what matters. And don't make it dark. Like, have somewhat good lighting. And that was easy. And I really enjoyed it because it was something new to me that was exciting. And then like every time I post, I got to run back to you and be like, oh my God, Ethan, well, I felt like, I think something that I really enjoyed working with both of you is I feel like you two truly care in ways that other coaches don't. And so that then makes me want to try harder because I don't want to do a bad job.
So it took you 19 hours from start to finish your first YouTube video. And how long does it take you now?
Oh, I mean, like, it could take an hour max.
There we go. And so let's talk about the YouTube gauntlet that you did, right? Ethan put you on a quest. It was to film one video a day for how long was it, Ethan?
Yeah, so yeah, let's talk about that. So, not sure how much you want to get into it, Jessica, but as we know, December, January, and February were hard months for you, right? And because of that, the content drastically slowed down, and thus the sales for your business also suffered from that, and then you were just struggling in general, right?
Yeah.
And so you came to me, I believe it was either the very end of January or the very beginning of February, and you, from what I remember, you said, Ethan, things aren't working well. I need help with YouTube. We'll get on a call. And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so basically, I had started doing ads in the fall, but didn't feel like I really knew what I was doing. I was still building out the client success side. And then my best friend of 14 years died from colon cancer in December. And I just like that was huge. So December did not, I think I made like 3K. Like, it wasn't a lot. I signed like one client. So not great. And I just kept remember thinking like, I don't have a predictable flywheel to acquire new clients. Like, that's what I want. Or some sort of like cyclical nurturing process. And so then, I went to you guys and you were like, YouTube. Like, okay, like, just tell me what I gotta do and I'll do it. Like, I'm very good at taking direction. Like, if you tell me what to do, like, and tell me why and like, and the impact it'll have, like, I'll go and do it. And so then my question was, okay, like, how many videos do we need to do to like to see an impact? And then you came up with the number 40, which I'm very close to hitting. I'm not there quite yet, but that's a whole other variety of reasons. But what it really came down to was like, I don't really even use YouTube to acquire new customers. I use it as really just a website that's a hosting platform to send my videos to people I'm already having conversations with.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to
Yeah.
talk about that specifically because, the way that the whole, Instagram funnel is usually taught is either follower ads or DM ads. And then that engages a conversation. So if it's follower ads, you basically run the ad turns into followers, those followers turn into conversations. And then through the process of talking to those people, you get them onto a call. And DM ads are pretty much the same thing, except they're opting in to receive something from you. So the frame of that conversation is a little bit better because you can leverage that thing in the conversation as opposed to basically starting cold. Like a follower is technically a lead in the sense that you can contact them, but there's certainly not a warm or a hot lead the way that I would like actually define it if it's a true inbound lead. And so
Yeah.
the issue that people have always run into with that system is that the lead generation side is very good. It's very easy to generate followers with follower ads. DM ads are pretty straightforward to run as well. And it really took all the guesswork out of getting leads, which is what everyone always thinks their main problem is. They just need more people, right? But that's not actually what the real bottleneck is for most acquisition systems that are running that way. It is a middle funnel conversion problem. So pretty much 100% of the people watching this have enough leads to get their business to where they need it to be. Whatever that number is, it doesn't matter. Just as a baseline principle, as a matter of fact, everyone watching this has everything that they need to get to the next level. The problem is that resource is not being maximized. And so the way that the YouTube Copilot works is, of course, it makes the whole content creation process extremely efficient and very straightforward. It's specifically designed to produce YouTube videos that convert into booked calls for high ticket business owners specifically. It'll create VSLs, it'll create content plans, outlines, scripts, titles, thumbnails. Every single part of the process is completely automated. Now, that's great and all. If you can upload videos to YouTube, that's awesome. But you have to actually do something with that, right? And so, how are you leveraging those videos inside of your appointment setting process specifically?
Yeah. So I will not get on a call with someone unless they've watched 2 of the YouTube videos.
And can I pause you there, Jessica? What happened to your close rate in February and March because of that?
Oh, it like quadrupled.
And so, what
Yeah.
was the close rate?
I think in December my closing rate was like 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, my closing rate, let me look. I think last time I checked, it's like 50 or 66.
Right.
Like, let's say 66. Yeah.
And in the month of, it was either February or March, you had a 100% close rate, which is pretty insane.
Everyone that I pitched. Yeah.
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 So you don't get on a call unless they watch 2 specific videos, right? And so what are those videos?
My VSL and then a client success interview. And if I'm on the call and they haven't watched it, I will then stop at discovery and book a follow-up to pitch them.
Yeah, and that's a very hard boundary too that you have as well, right? Like that's not an insignificant thing where, like, we can think about it. Everyone wants more money. Everyone wants more clients for the most part, and you have this person on the call with you that you can close right now, but the standard that you have for yourself is that if you have not done what I need you to do in order for me to help you, we're not moving forward. Which we can think about that from a client success perspective as well. Like, what do you think that has in regards to impact to the way that they respect and adhere to what happens after that, right? Like, of course, they're going to actually listen to you at that point. So how do you decide what specific case study to send to your leads?
So I typically do it based off of their key problem and age. So if they're older, I want to send someone that they can relate to. So someone a little bit older, or depending if they are dealing, I mean, now I only deal with folks that are regaining. So now it's all regain. I also have some that focus more on the weight loss versus the relationship with food and vice versa. So I tailor it to each individual person.
Right. And so you've had some feedback from your current clients and people that you've, had one call closes with, or even DM closes in some cases, right? Like they um, all binge watched your YouTube channel. Like there's specific feedback, like, hey, I knew I just needed to work with you because I watched like this specific video, right? And so, what kind of like from an emotional level, how has that made you feel in regards to the level of security that you have in your business now that you have this asset working for you in the background when you sleep?
Ooh, a lot better. Like,
Because beforehand, it was kind of like a hamster wheel, right? Like you always had to generate more leads, Like the other thing about Instagram and TikTok too, right? Is like the content disappears right after you post it. It has like a 24-hour shelf life, but you post one YouTube video and it's working for you forever as long as it exists.
and what I've been doing as well is because I haven't really been utilizing my email list too much, I've been sending to my email list the last few weeks videos that I made in January and been saying like, hey, I recently made this video. Like some of my videos only have like 10, 15 views, but I don't care. Like that doesn't matter to me because someone's watching it and that's all that matters. Like someone's watching it. I don't need 1,000 people to watch it, which is so different than like the world that I lived in before, which was get as many views as possible. It doesn't matter about that. It's really about the watch time, which like Ethan and I did a analytics dive the other day, and apparently my watch time's great.
It's amazing, actually. It's like as good as you could ever hope for it to be.
Yeah.
The average view duration time for the day we're watching it was 13 minutes, which is wild.
That's very high.
Yeah.
And a key thing with that too is right, it's because the highest value clients are the ones who are the only people getting sent to those videos. And over time, as this continues to grow, the YouTube algorithm is going to know like these are your specific clients that you need to be serving. And a year from now, when YouTube actually starts to like really truly generate its own leads, it's going to the right people. And so, yeah, it really does. The whole strategy flips the whole views equal money thing on its head. I mean, we have three fugly channel or videos on our channel that have generated multiple six figures, like just from those three videos. I mean, I had more, and we kind of relaunched everything, and I unlisted the previous videos, but um, it just goes to show, like, you don't need fancy editing, you don't need a lot of videos, frankly, and you don't even need a lot of views on those videos. You just need to say the right words to the right people in the right order, and they will convert. And so, like, one thing I want to really emphasize, like, what impact has the YouTube Copilot had in being able to really support the system and generate the content to be able to drive this stuff? Like, do you feel like you would be able to generate the same outcomes without that?
No. Is that a real question?
Jessica, knowing everything that you know now from your entire journey, back from management consulting to business school to your tech startup, the beginning phase of your coaching business, what's one thing that you would share to somebody who's on a similar path to you that would compress the timeline for success for them?
One thing
If you had to, yeah.
for someone that's doing what I'm doing.
Any coaching business doesn't really matter.
Figure out what your problems are and find people that can solve them better than you. Like that for me was it. Like I remember in our sales call, like you were like really hounding me of like you're in a few coaching programs, like how big of a deal is client success to you? And I'm like, it is really important. Like if it's not top notch, nothing else matters. Um, and so for me, like client success is investing in client success has by far been the, if not the best investment I've made because number one, it has personally fulfilled me in ways that I cannot imagine. Number two, it's what's best for the business as well.
Absolutely. Well, I know you have to go right now, but I do just want to thank you. Me and Ethan sincerely mean this. You are uh, one of, if not the most enjoyable person that we've worked with. You do everything that you're supposed to do. You're always very supportive in the community, like superstar MVP, the person in the community for sure. Everybody loves you. Always, present on every group call. And yeah, you have like a truly extreme impact on all of your clients, and the butterfly effect for what happens for their families and everyone that they interact with is massive, and so just want to congratulate you for all of the hard work that you've done and what it's had as far as impact goes on your life and your clients. And also would love to do a part two on what the next 12 months look like for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Jessica. Yeah, so Jessica had to run there, but Ethan, I'm curious to ask you, what do you think was your biggest takeaway from not just our conversation right now with Jessica, but your overall experience working with her? Because, I want to make it clear too, like you were outside of all the client success stuff, which you of course help a lot with as well. The main driver for all of the results that we were talking about on the interview here, like we really just didn't even barely scratch the surface and the impact that AI has had in, optimizing her entire business, right? On a systematic level, we've created a very, very solid structure for work to happen within the specific work. The processes are now automated where appropriate and then enhanced where automation is not appropriate or can't happen at all. You've been the one to drive the vast majority of that systemization through the utilization of AI. Of course, the YouTube Copilot, which is really the star of the show with the success here. And one thing I want to highlight really clearly as far as big takeaways go is that client success starts way before someone joins the program. And a lot of the things that we see as symptoms and just negative consequences really that happen in the client success pipeline, if you will, are due to the fact that you closed the wrong person, essentially. And that's because your marketing is in the wrong place and it's pointed in the wrong direction, which is why I know we emphasize the idea of like the highest value client matrix so many times, because that eliminates all of the guesswork on who you should be talking to, what you should be saying, where you should be saying it, when you should be saying it, why you should be saying it, and how all this stuff actually happens. So, anyways, that's kind of like one piece there, but I'll bring it back to you. Like, what do you think was your biggest takeaway from our conversation, which I know is just part one, but also working with Jessica in general?
Yeah, overall, working with her, it's the biggest takeaway is that which has been wild to see, is that she breaks all the conventional rules of content and social media. If they watched the interview, they would have heard that she has made multiple accounts on TikTok that have reached high six figures and got a lot of engagement. And we didn't really get to touch on the fact that those leads in there, like how poor quality they were. They're pretty bad. Like they would bully her and stuff and talk
Yeah,
to her.
broke doesn't describe what they were like. They were
Yeah, it's more, yeah,
mean spirited people. And
and then
also they weren't young either. That's a key thing to note as
yeah.
well, is they were within the proper age range. They were
On
45.
paper, they would be like, "Oh, I hit a gold mine. I have all these people that they look like they'd be my perfect client, but they
Nope.
were awful." And then Instagram, of course, it was okay. It's still working for her, but it's not like
Optimized.
it's not optimized. Yeah, so Instagram is still a great place to do it. It's not like the key driving factor. But the thing though, that's, the takeaway is that like she moved to YouTube and moving like specifically her focus on making content to YouTube, and her views tanked. She has not really gained any subscribers. Like if you were to look on the outside and look into her channel, you would think incorrectly that she's not making any money because she's getting pitiful views, almost no, like not that many comments and whatnot. But like the engagement looks low, but the engagement in her business and her life is extremely high, and she's making way more money than 99% of professional YouTubers are with a six-figure subscriber count, right? So that to me is the thing to do. And also the thing that we didn't get to touch on that much is that the content is boring. There's no fancy editing. It's the complete opposite of what she is used to making. It's just cut, authentic, live video, basically, just put on YouTube, talking and solving problems for people. That's it. And people like it, and it works. It sells. And so she's a testament to the fact that you don't need to have any fancy bells and whistles. It's just as long as you are good at communicating the things that you talk about, and you actually solve people's problems for them, they're gonna know, like, and trust you, and you'll make money. It's really that simple.
What do you think? Because you've spent a lot of time with Jessica, you've worked with a lot of other people in different industries, and within our own program, you've been an observer in other programs as well, and of course, being my identical twin brother, you've absorbed all of the conversations we've ever had over the past 6 years talking about all this stuff, right? What what would you say is one of the main differentiating factors that allows for Jessica to be as successful as she is, as opposed to the people that are
I
not?
have a very easy answer for this, and it's hard for anyone to argue against this, but I've seen the data. I know the numbers, I got the facts. The thing is volume. She just simply puts out a lot of videos, a lot of content. She's having a lot of conversations. She's just working a lot. Like the number one factor between the people that we've worked with that are succeeding on YouTube and those that aren't is simply number of videos they've uploaded. That's it. If they, and of course, that's predicating the fact that they're making the right type of content. And what we didn't touch on that much earlier in the conversation was that Jessica was making the right type of content back in December, January, whatever, on YouTube. But there was like 2 videos up. And so when I told her, okay, listen, you're going to make 40 videos for 40 days straight. Every single day you're going to upload a video. And when she did that, everything blew up within a week. And so it was simply a matter of volume. And we've seen the opposite of that be true for people we've worked with and people that we've just seen on the sidelines, where they're not putting themselves out there. So it's no surprise that things aren't happening.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, what else? Is there anything else about Jessica that you think besides, of
Yeah.
course, there's a lot of character traits and
Well,
beliefs that are required to work that
there's
over?
a big thing. There's a big thing that is relevant to 2025, which is she has massively leveled herself up with utilizing AI as a whole in her business. And it's, we use many tools, of course. The YouTube Copilot is the primary thing that's running off of Claude, but I use Grok, I use Gemini, I use ChatGPT, every single model in ChatGPT. You use Notebook LM, 11 Lab, like everything is getting used, right? And so Jessica has also embraced that, and many parts of her business that normally would need to have hired someone for is now getting done with Claude. A lot of the outsourcing of ideas, or rather, not really outsourcing,
It's like a
but
thought partnership, really.
it's like a partnership where normally you would need a coaching call for that, or pay for a program for the guy, someone that's an expert in that field. She knows enough to where she can, kind of suss things out herself. But if you give it to any model intelligently, prompting it correctly, and also making sure everything's critical, that she can get that feedback live within, she can solve whatever that problem is, or anyone, for that matter, within a matter of minutes, as long as they're utilizing the tool correctly. Key point there, utilizing it correctly, because as we both know, there's many, specifically ChatGPT, if you just say whatever you want to say, you will not get the result that you're hoping for.
Well, I mean, that's where you come into play with all the AI coaching that you provide.
Yeah, because there's a correct way to do everything, I believe, and there's certainly a correct way to use AI. I don't act. It's clear to me that it's not like a stylistic thing, like there definitely is a correct way, at least for our purposes here at the business, to utilize AI. And Yeah, it matters a lot. I mean, again, we can see it every time we work somewhere where everyone's using ChatGPT now, but not everyone's getting the same results. And it's so obvious when you see, the term now these days is AI slop. You can see that from a mile away. And
Yeah, we've seen it.
yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it in course content. We've seen it in YouTube videos.
Yeah,
We've seen it in posts. We've seen whole courses made with ChatGPT without being read beforehand with the emoji still in it. So,
and the prompt tailings too, right?
and the
Yeah,
prompt tails at the end too, which is
yeah,
also very, very nice to see as a client.
yeah,
You know, it's very cool to spend $5,000 on a program and have ChatGPT ask you at the end, "Would you like to continue the conversation?" And so
yeah. They care a
that's
lot, don't they?
they care so much. They care so much. And so, and Jessica's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
To be clear, is that she has become an expert using AI, um, and I'm proud of what she's done with it. I mean, like Claude is her, you know, business partner. Like the model is it's not just with YouTube. I mean, it's with so many things, right? So, yeah, I mean, the two big takeaways are volume and being ahead of the curve and just simply and using AI because we're not stopping this train. If you're not, it's not even just with business owners, but if anyone isn't gaining the skill of how to use AI, they're going to be left behind very quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's a tsunami. Where there's a tsunami, it's coming our way. Most of us are already in the water, so you either learn to swim, or ideally you surf, you ride the wave, or you drown. I mean, it really is that simple. But like, and then we can have our own discussion about this. Actually, I think it would be an interesting conversation to put out there. But
We will. But
um,
I want to know what your biggest takeaway working Jessica is.
yeah,
Actually,
so a few things actually.
I've had a lot more time with her than you have. A significant
Yeah,
amount more.
yeah. So I think for me, because I primarily, and for anyone's awareness, Ethan's her client success manager, right? So most of the one-on-one work, not all of it, but most of it was with Ethan. And of course, I'm training Ethan in the background. A lot of the stuff flows from me through Ethan into Jessica, but the vast majority of the value is provided by him. In this case, as far as the one-on-one stuff goes, I primarily interact with Jessica on the group calls in the community, in Slack and through Loom and our own one-on-one calls. And um, my biggest takeaway, I've Jessica's been working with us since September or October. Um, she's very consistent. Even when things dipped down, and they did, and as she mentioned, her best friend died. Her, uh, father passed away, relatively recently in the grand scheme of things. Um, she still was steadfast in her state of being. Like, she mentioned like she doesn't cry a lot. Um, that what I've seen what that means specifically is she's very sturdy, very stable. And it's not to say that she like is dense and doesn't let emotions in. She is still like actually cares, actually allows herself to feel things, but she's strong. And I've done a lot of client success training with Jessica as far as call reviews go and helping her become like the best coach that she can possibly be. And so, I've been witness to a lot of like very challenging one-on-one calls that she's had with her clients. And um, some people are like just downright like suicidal actually. And uh, the negative self-talk that she has to encounter in these calls is extreme. And her ability to maintain her frame, for lack of a better term, while still being able to be empathetic and actually listen is something that I find to be one of the leading indicators for an actually good coach. Um, and she does that naturally, but she's also developed that skill consciously as well. So she has this natural talent with this also drive to grow and to succeed and to become more. And it's also imbued with actually caring as well. And where we're at now, which we'll get into like in part two with this, is like we've set up a client success system where her clients are fulfilling each other on her behalf,
Yeah.
which is really kind of like the end game with all this stuff is you build a system that actually allows people to get results without you being the sole contributor to that. And so, if I were to peer into the looking glass and be the oracle for a moment here. I foresee Jessica having a six-figure a month business with no other team members whatsoever. The other team members are AI agents that are out doing all of the tasks better than all of the other people that she's had to run through. She's been through multiple appointment setters, multiple assistants. And it's not to say appointment setters are like, in general bad. It's just to say that they're people. And, the previous acquisition system that she had before she enhanced it with the stuff that we provided was a very talent dependent acquisition system where everything either rose or fell to the quality of the appointment setting and also the level of it too, whatever the volume was. That's no longer the case, right? It's like very potent in regards to, you're speaking to very specific leads that have a very high probability of converting. You're sending them very potent content that has a very high probability of converting into a sales call. She has that standard that she set where they must watch a case study and the VSL before she continues. And the system just works, right? And the more people flowing through the system, and the more that we can continue to enhance and optimize things on a process level, automation, and also the thing we really didn't touch on at all is the design of the client experience, which is the most important factor in all of this. As you know, this is, the main thing that I do, for the clients is I engineer the client experience essentially. It's so that we can have a system in a program that's able to deliver results, referrals, back-end sales on autopilot, And so I foresee Jessica being able to essentially forge the exact kind of coaching business that everyone has always dreamed of having, where it's maximally profitable. You get to work as little or as much as you want to. You don't have to be dependent on a huge team. And the stuff that you do just simply works, and you can focus on the things that actually matter, which is driving real transformation and expanding that transformation through your acquisition process. And so,
she's going to be recognized as she is the best bariatric coach in the world right now, but she'll be recognized as such by this point next year for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And even with her, it's interesting, which is probably worth a whole episode on its own, which is the role that the coaching industry and business has in replacing therapy, I think, and like medical institutions, because she's an example that's kind of strange that, people are paying, $3,000, $6,000, $9,000 to have weight loss effects that is, it's a medical thing. And they're supposed to be going to doctors, and they did go to, have surgery and whatnot, and it didn't work. And then they go to a coach, and then they actually fix their life.
Yeah, it's interesting too. She brought it up in the beginning how, she had surgery on her stomach, but really what she needed is, she said it was brain surgery, but really what she provides is like a psychic surgery.
It is.
In the sense of like psychic, in the sense of psychology, by the way. I'm not saying she's like casting new age magic spells and changing someone's mind. She's performing a very precise style of psychic surgery in conversations that allow you to remove the parasite, which is always a negative belief from one's mind.
Many businesses are like this, where it's not, where the problem is somewhat medical, actually.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
sure.
getting fixed. Fitness is an example of this, actually. Kind of related to this, but also all the mindset coaching and whatnot. That's supposed to be done by a psychologist, and it's getting done in a group coaching program, and these people are actually fixing up their lives by doing this sort of stuff. It's kind of gray with this, but I think it'd be worth having a whole deep dive about that, just because of how strange it is.
Yeah, for sure.
And also,
Well,
times to being Americans in North America and can't afford, healthcare, so you pay a coach, and then it forces you to be accountable and fix your own shit for you. It's a whole thing.
yeah, I don't want to create the dichotomy that therapy or psychiatry in general isn't useful, but there's definitely a large
No,
gap that's created.
yeah.
Uh, the way that I see it is like humans are humans, and there's A, B, C, and D players in every industry. And if you can imagine, like, there's surely going to be an F student therapist. And I think a lot of those people are the ones that most of society encounters just because of payment stuff, basically. They just can't afford the highest quality service, which you can do now in a coaching program because of all the things that we've discussed, being able to actually deliver real transformation at scale. So anyways, if you guys like that, stay tuned for part 2. Peace.